Make, watch, play! Make, watch, play! I am not an organized person. For most of my life, I've just kinda stumbled around, overwhelmed by managing responsibilities, interests, and creative endeavors, and I know I'm not alone there. I'm gonna bet that most of you, like me, have been told at least once in your life to simply find what works for you. This advice is unhelpful and unfortunately true. However, I am here with quite possibly the best solution to this conundrum. The key to achieving true organization is to slather something in enough pretty colors to get your neurons firing. Not just color coding, but making it look cool, over the top, something you can fuss over, give yourself an aneurysm. In July of 2024, I started logging my creative endeavors in a big spreadsheet that I call Make, Watch, Play. It separates the media I engage with into things I make, things I watch, and things I play, organizing them into a checkbox system that rewards me for spending time on at least one option of each category per day. Over time, I added monthly goals, requisites for marking a day complete, a ranking for how likely I was to check off a certain option, and biggest of all, a gigantic qualitative media tracker to log anything I finish and yap about it. Today, I wanted to celebrate the end of 2024 by recommending some of my favorite pieces of media that I logged with this tracker, as well as talking about some of my own work that I'm quite proud of. There was a lot of great stuff I got to experience this year, so I hope that some of you end up checking out at least one of these gems. And also, you should totally comment your own favorite pieces of media from this year to boost my engagement. Okay, let's go! Believe it or not, I don't just watch stuff obsessively, I make a lot of stuff too, and this year was a surprisingly eventful one in that regard. Make, Watch, Play is meant to help me make creative progress, so it only felt right to log my own work alongside the work of those I admire. I started sketchbooking again for the first time in 5 years. I made a whole video for the first time in 2 years, and thanks to being an overworked design student, I've had a greater art output than I've had in all my years making stuff. For all my fellow creatives, artists, and generally insane people out there, I'm gonna use this section to recommend a bunch of resources and fun things you all can try. This year, I started properly teaching myself art fundamentals. There's a wealth of resources out there for this, but I personally like to recommend people I found on YouTube. Proco, Mark Brunet, Winged Canvas, Just Draw Party, and PCAT have all been a huge help to someone like me who just didn't really know where to start. Fundamentals can be overwhelming, so take your time with them and enjoy your progress. I've linked all of these channels down in the description, as well as a big spreadsheet with even more resources if you'd like. For people out there who have OCs they obsess over, I recommend doing visual mood boards for them. My friends and I did these and traded them with each other, and they're super fun. Mood boards like these can be anything from a small collage on Canva to a very over-edited video like the ones I did. It doesn't really matter. They're just a great way to take stock of your characters and the various inspirations that comprise them. It's also a good way to lay out things like voice claims, vibes, or even music that you associate with OCs in a more digestible format. Other stuff I recommend doing with friends. My roommates and I have been having a few PowerPoint nights where we invite people over to present anything that strikes their fancy. I mainly use this as an excuse to lore dump and or torture my friends, or both in the case of the last one I did, a presentation on Kingdom Hearts lore that came out to over 120 slides. There is something wrong with my brain. If you take anything away from this haphazard video about my creative loves, I really hope it's this section. Have fun with your work, experiment and do silly things. There's not really a wrong way to learn whatever hobbies you want to spend your time on, so do yourself a favor and allow yourself to bask in them. You deserve it.
Beatrice, why are you pretending I'm this guy's nephew?
We need money.
You're scamming him?
I was thinking more like flat out stealing from him.
What? No way.
Why not? We already stole a horse.
Hey guys.
In the week leading up to Halloween, my roommates and I sat down to watch one episode of Over the Garden Wall every night until the 31st. A good chunk of us had heard of the show before, but never actually watched it. It first aired over a decade ago, so that made sense, but oh boy, I wish I had seen it when it did. The show follows Wirt and Greg, a pair of odd brothers who get lost in the woods and spend each episode trying and failing to find their way home, repeatedly encountering bizarre and off-putting phenomena that they just sorta accept.
Oh, Beatrice, meet Fred the horse.
Nice to horse your acquaintance.
You can talk?
The two find a town of pumpkin cultists, a schoolhouse for animals, an ominous woodsman voiced by Christopher Lloyd, and a talking bluebird named Beatrice, amongst other things. Joining these goobers every night as they wandered through the equally confusing and wondrous woods was a great time, the show hitting this perfect sweet spot between humorous and creepy that I would have been obsessed with as a kid. Each episode sees these boys delve further and further into the unknown, each time finding more than meets the eye. No matter how bizarre or off-putting, there's always a lesson to be learned. Even when things are scariest, sometimes we need to put out the light and allow ourselves to be lost in order to be found once more. If you like stuff like Gravity Falls or enjoy genuinely great celebrity vocal performances, you'll absolutely love Over the Garden Wall. Watch it leading up to Halloween like I did for 20 rye bread points.
No! I'm solidifying! You magnum bitch!
Does anyone here remember the Germa Dollhouse stream? The one where Germa streamed himself in a Sims house and let the chat control whatever he did through the results of a poll? That was pretty funny, wasn't it? Well, that sucker walked so Generation Loss could run. Created by resident psychopath and former Minecraft YouTuber Ranboo, Generation Loss took the form of a series of streams in which the audience would control the story's hero as he wandered through an increasingly strange cabin in the middle of Christian hell. It starts off very goofy and ridiculous, but it's immediately clear that there's some sinister shit hiding just beneath the surface. It's hard to properly talk about Generation Loss without spoiling what exactly makes it so hauntingly impactful by the end, but I highly suggest giving it a shot. I've left the link to the supercut of the streams in the description if you want to take a look. What Ranboo and their team managed to accomplish is genuinely really impressive, and everyone involved should be very, very proud. Frieren Beyond Journey's End is a show I am only mildly obsessed with. It may or may not be the subject of an upcoming video. I may or may not be in the middle of a massive analytical rewatch of it. I may or may not have a notes document on it that's almost 100 pages long. That is to say, the Funny Elf show is very good. Set in a high fantasy world in which the grand hero's journey has already concluded, Frieren follows the titular elf mage herself after she is faced with a truly startling question. Now that you and your friends have gone on a decade-long quest, overcame impossible odds, and saved the world from ruin, what do you do now? What do you do with the peace, the mundanity, the daily minutiae you now have an abundance of? What exactly is left for you after the event that seemingly defined your life has already happened? Your friends going their separate ways and the people around you growing older and older with each passing day. Your elven lifespan making it so you will live centuries after everything and everyone you fought for takes its final breath. It's a question that Frieren, much like with everything else in her life, decides to take her time with, and the result is one of the most lovely and serene stories I've ever experienced. Where most fantasy stories involving heroes and mages focus on grand battles and dramatic stakes, Frieren is far more interested in exploring what makes its setting and characters tick as the passage of time ticks along with them. Episodes can span anywhere from months to years in length, which gives us ample opportunity to get to know these adventurers and how their journey changes them. Fern's judgmental tendencies turning into a gentle patience and empathy, Eisen's urgent quest for personal redemption morphing into a desire to simply enjoy his travels. We see all kinds of people undergo all sorts of transformations. Frieren is excellent at taking on familiar tropes and finding new ways to make them shine, reaching untold depth with an efficiency that never feels too fast or overwhelming. The grand spectacles and battles are still there, but it's what comes before and after them that make your time with the show truly special. It's the kind of story that just makes you feel warm inside, the kind of story that makes you want to get to know your friends, call your mom, ask a stranger how they're doing. It champions love, connection, sentiment, memories, and the nature of legacy in a world primed to change every single day. Even after our names are long forgotten by the world, we will live on forever in the words, actions, and feelings of those we love, and I think that's really wonderful.
If there is even one precious memory tucked within the walls of your mind, then I think it would be a waste for you to die.
The enormous amount of Sonic fan games out there to be played is probably no secret to any of you. There's some fan work so good that Sega literally brought on some of those developers to make official games, but that's mainline junk. What about the goofy stuff? What about a fan game that became a 3D Sonic fan game that became a Mario Kart clone that became quite possibly the coolest kart racer ever made, where you can play as Master Chief?
Sir, beep beep. Vroom, vroom.
Dr. Robotnik's Ring Racers is the answer to all of those questions and more. It is one of the most chaotic, bonkers things I have ever played, and it did not cost me a single penny. This shit is free! You can Tokyo Drift with Solid Snake for free! Once you get past the admittedly lengthy but needed tutorial and learn what makes the game tick, you'll be blazing all over the place. The learning curve is surprisingly steep, but as a result, the amount of tech and ways to maintain your speed provide an experience that rewards you the more you try and master it. I keep coming back to this blisteringly fast game, and each time I do, I learn more and more. Oh no! It doesn't pull its punches, but in return you can really feel yourself learning the mechanics and improving your times little by little. There's so much meat on the bones of this game, it's honestly really inspiring that it came from such humble beginnings. If we can expect more fully fleshed out experiences like Ring Racers from the fan project scene to come, then I think the future is very, very bright for indie game enjoyers everywhere. 8.5 out of 10, would Master Chief again. This is Nico. They are my little baby bop, and I would gladly throw myself off of a cliff if they asked me to. I expect all of you to do the same and download the 2016 video game One Shot, of which Nico is the protagonist. It costs all of $6 dues and goes on sale often. Please play it. It is the grandparent of so many amazing games that all take direct inspiration from it, and yet I know all of, like, 2 people who have ever actually played it. If you need something quick to just devour in 1 or 2 sittings, look no further. Go in blind, play it at night or in the dark, and remember, you only have one shot. I wrote like a whole section for Vivid Stasis, but it was like 10 minutes long, so I'm just going to make that its own video. So, yeah, look forward to that. You're welcome for the recommendations, by the way. Just don't come cheap, you know? You better make, watch, play them all. Do it. Do it, you won't. Do it. I'll eat.